How you doing? This is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and I'm about to launch a few product review videos here for you. And in particular, I'm going to start off with one that's been long awaited and anticipated by many of my viewers. And I'm going to compare and contrast the RipCord Ace and the QAD Ultra Rest HDX. These are two of some of the most popular drop-away rests on the market right now. But I also want to mention the RipCord Micro Elite drop-away rest. I used it last year, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I have experience with it. And hopefully this will help you make a buying decision if you're interested in any of those three rests for your particular setup. And also, if you ever make a purchase decision for a product based on one of my reviews, I encourage you to shoot an email to the manufacturer and say, hey, I purchased your product, or I didn't purchase your product because of Sean McVeigh of Sean's Outdoor Adventures, one of his product reviews. So maybe the manufacturers will watch the reviews and learn how to improve their products, or maybe they'll just simply start throwing me a kickback for so many people coming to them and buying their products because of one of my reviews. So without any further ado, let's get started with this one. So I previously had the Ultra Rest on my bow for about a year. This is the HDX, and currently I have the RipCord Ace on my bow here. And I want to just quickly tell you some of the main things I noticed right off the bat. One of the first things that caught my attention when the rest was installed, let me just hang my bow up for a second, is when the rest is installed and in the down position. Let's say, and this is an important thing to consider because especially if you're a hunter like I am, there can be situations where it's an intense moment, you have to take a second shot, and maybe you put the arrow on, but you forget to lift the rest. So with that in mind, when the rest is in the down position, it has these nice grooves right in here that the arrow can rest on. Let me grab an arrow. And it kind of guides it a little bit, so when the arrow is drawn back, it helps keep the arrow right in the center of the rest for that process. Now, I noticed that with the Ultra Rest, but the RipCord Ace, let me grab that now. It's a much more narrow prong. The prongs here on the RipCord Ace, and mine is a little bit well used, but the prongs are more narrow and they don't have the ridges like the QAD does. And so what I've actually had happen a few times in my testing is if I forgot to or intentionally left the rest down and drew the bow back, when the rest came up, there were times that the arrow went off to the side of the rest, which meant I had to put it down and realign the arrow and then put it back up. So in that regard, that's one element that I liked better about the QAD rest. Another thing I would like to mention is where the mechanism is to raise the rest. For the Ace, it's right behind, it's actually part of the rest here. So you're on the center of the bow, like I just lift it with my thumb. But with the QAD Ultra Rest, it's actually over here, which means you're kind of keeping your hand more around the grip if you're like me and you like to do it with the hand that holds the bow, because you're grabbing the arrow here and you're flipping the rest up. Now with this, you have to kind of bring your thumb around, which weakens your grip on the bow. It's easier to drop your bow, and I have a little rope that I have my hand in, so if I was to drop the bow, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. However, it's just one observation I made. To flip up the Ace, it weakens the grip a little bit because your thumb has to come over here. And if you want to do it with the other hand, well, it's a little awkward, especially with this. It's a Hoyt. You can't get your hand through there really. So you have to do it. Whereas with the Ultra Rest, if you don't have a quiver on, you can flip it up with your other hand if you wanted to. I also want to mention that I'm using the standard piece that screws onto your string, and this is what helps the rest rise into the vertical position. This mechanism on the QAD has a Phillips head screw. This has a small Allen wrench screw for the Ace. I actually didn't have an Allen wrench small enough when I first got it, so I had to go out of my way to get one small enough to tighten it, whereas with the QAD rest, I had plenty of Phillips head screwdrivers around. So So far in my review, obviously the QAD has the lead. However, what I'm about to talk about is going to level things out pretty quickly. And that is, with the Ace, you have the micro adjustabilities where there's little knobs. So if I want to move my arrow rest just a hair to the left, I loosen it and I just turn that knob a little tiny bit and then tighten it back up. With the QAD, you don't have any micro adjust knobs. You just have to loosen the nut and then slide it. There are lines there which help, but many of you know when you're setting up a bow, it's easy to bump it a little too much, or maybe you're not sure how loose it is, and when you go to slide it, it slides too much, and then, you know, it's just when it comes to fine-tuning an arrow rest, that micro adjust is huge, and I really, really appreciated that about the RipCord Ace. Now for my setup with the RipCord Ace, the bar comes out real far past where the end of the prong is, and it doesn't need to come out that far for it to keep the arrow in. So I even contemplated cutting it down like a half of an inch off, because that's just more that you have to get the arrow around to place it on. And when you're in those intense moments in a hunting situation, you want to maximize all of your movements, and so that kind of hinders a little bit. The last thing I'll talk about though with the two rests is the actual drop away, you know, it dropping away. So this one's currently in the upright position. I just hold, you know, you push it a little bit and it'll pop down. Currently I have the RipCord Ace on my bow, and it's going to stay there. That's the rest I'm using this year. I just have more confidence with it. I had the QAD on for, you know, close to a year, and had a couple instances, maybe once or twice out of 500 to 1,000 shots where it failed to go down. I don't want that to happen on the biggest buck of my life, and one of those times where it fails is when I'm releasing the arrow on that deer, or if I was decide to shoot in competition and it's coming down to the wire and every shot counts. I don't want it to fail on me. And so the QAD had the lead in a lot of categories, but it simply let me down once or twice, and I've had so many people email me and tell me that they've had theirs fail on them too. So I don't have the confidence because of that. I put the Ace on, and you can even tell when it goes down, the sound of it is different. I just feel more confident in it. It has never failed me. And now that I'm looking at it, I just remember there's one other thing I want to tell you about this rest. It's a little bit of a negative, but I'm going to share it in a second here. But anyway, I'm going to use it though, because I just have confidence that it's going to drop out of the way for me. It's acted better for me than the Ultra Rest. So there's actually two more things I just want to quick mention. One is, if you look at the prongs here for the rest, it's very narrow. And when I first got it, I had these Easton Fat Boy arrows that I was wanting to try with it. For, you know, when you're shooting in 3D or something, you try to, you know, they're called line cutters, basically a fatter arrow for that. You wouldn't use something like this for hunting. However, this arrow, being a little bit fatter, did not fit through the arrow rest smoothly. And so I contacted them, and they did send me out a wider one, the standard one that goes on the other rest that they have, the what's it called, Code Red. So they sent me out that one, which is wider, but that's something you need to be aware of. If you're planning to use the RipCord Ace and you have fat arrows, they might not fit through there very clearly. The component that they give you with the RipCord Ace that goes on the string here, I shot this bow with this rest on it probably 1,000 times, and around that time, I noticed the rest did not go all the way up one time. Actually, it goes up, but then it comes up farther when you're at full draw, and it didn't do that. And the reason is because this slid on my string, and I tightened it as hard as I could after that, and I could still move it because my string is waxed. And so I'm going to tie it in. You know, a lot of people prefer to tie it in anyway. I just was testing it for out-of-the-box operation, and this did slide on me after about 1,000 shots. So that is something you'll need to keep an eye on, probably with both of them. I didn't notice the other one slide on me, but I did have it fail on me, just it failed to drop away. So that's the RipCord Ace and the QAD Ultra Rest HDX. They're both decent rests, but I'm going with the Ace. I just have more confidence in it. And now I want to mention the LImbdriver Micro Elite. I used that last year and I hunted with it. The problem I had with it, and the reason why I no longer use it, is it has a solid rod that comes all the way out, about to the end of the shelf right here. And this particular bow, this is a couple years old now, and when this bow goes off, it jumps forward a little bit. And what was happening is that rod on the rest was nailing me right in the bone of my finger, which is very sensitive because there's no meat on the bone right here in the back of your hand. And it was hurting my hand. And I had a friend who was shooting the same bow and having the same thing happen to him. So we both ended up switching out and going to a different rest. I do like the aspect of the LImbdriver rest where it's the limb that's pulling that rest down. I have more confidence that it's going to happen because it's the limb that's pulling it down, as I just said, whereas these types of rest, it's the mechanisms inside that are causing it to fall down, and I just worry about those mechanisms failing. And so I had a little more confidence than these with the LImbdriver. So I just want to throw that out there for you. If you have a bow that kind of jumps a little bit when it goes off, I wouldn't recommend that because you may end up having that same problem with that metal bar hitting you in the hand, and it's uncomfortable, and that can actually cause you to start flinching because you're anticipating the pain and messing up your shot. So also I do notice that these, both the QAD and the RipCord Ace, are quieter than the LImbdriver. Any of the limb-driven rests that I've used, they've always made my bows louder. That's one drawback to them, is the noise. So I hope that information helps you, and I hope it helps you make a buying decision on one of these rests. Ultimately, any of these types of drop-away rests have the ability to fail on you. It's just some, I think, I have a little more confidence in than others. In this particular case, I'm going with the Ace. By the way, I thought about this after I concluded that review, that I do offer both of these, the RipCord Ace and the QAD, on my online store at Sean'sOutdoorAdventures.com. Those products, along with most of the products I offer, have a MAP price, which means no matter where you buy them, they are going to cost you the same price. And I offer free shipping. And so I encourage you to help support what I'm doing by, purchase them through my store if that's something you're looking to do. I got rests, sites, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check that out at Sean'sOutdoorAdventures.com, and I'll put a link for you down in the description section with this video. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and God bless.